So back in 2020, when the world collapsed and it came to an end and we weren't allowed to see our friends and go outside, we had to social distance and all that stuff. Me and my buddy, we started playing tennis because it's like the ultimate social distancing activity. You both stand on opposite sides of a court and you hit a ball to each other. Cool. So I got into tennis in 2020, and man, I did not know that that was going to take me down this slippery slope of obsession. And that's become an activity that I am very, very passionate about. I follow the sport very closely, and I enjoy it a lot. And there are so many lessons to be extrapolated from tennis that we can apply not only to our businesses, but to our lives. And in this video, this podcast today, I want to take some of the most valuable lessons that I've learned from playing tennis and share them with you. So number one is and this is from a commencement speech that Roger Federer gave very recently, where he talked about you need to play every point as though it's the most important point in the world, because it is. But then as soon as that point is behind you, you need to let it be behind you and you need to let it go. And that's actually very poignant, very difficult if you think about it conceptually, to focus in the moment on the thing that's in front of you with all your heart and soul, because it is the most important thing. That thing in that moment is the only thing that matters. And yet, as soon as it's past, as soon as it's behind you, it is irrelevant. It no longer matters. You have to let it go, and you have to move to the next point and focus on that with your full intensity of being. And that is so true in life and in business, where when you're doing a thing, you need to be in the thing. You need to focus on it and put everything into it, but then you need to be okay letting go of the result, whatever way it went. If you won it, great. If you lost it, okay, move on. You have to be able to both be 100% committed and then 100% detached. And that is an incredibly hard thing to master. And it's one of the reasons you see so many, even professional tennis players, implode on the court, is because it's actually quite difficult to care so deeply and then to let it go. Care so deeply, then let it go. But right there is a master skill for life. So that's the first one. Second is that in tennis, the margin of victory is quite thin. So Roger Federer, over the course of his career, he won like 82, 83% of his matches, but he only won 52% of the points in those matches. So the difference between in any given match, him and victory and failure was 4%. He won 52%, his opponent won 48%. That is a very thin margin when you really stop to think about it. And yet, because he can consistently win out those thin margin games, he had such a dominant record. He's now considered one of the most dominant players of all times, perhaps the greatest, depending on how you want to measure that, right? So 82% victory rate was off the back of only winning 52% of the points. And I find that to be a really interesting corollary in business and life, once again, where, you're going to win just barely more than you lose. If you're doing it right, you're going to fail almost as many times as you win. And it might be 49% of the time you fail, but 51% of the time you succeed. And if you can succeed just slightly more often than you fail, then over time you will experience an upward trend in the chaotic path of improvement. If you can just keep winning just 1% more than you lose, then you will keep going up and to the right. And that means that you need to be comfortable losing almost half the time. That's a lot of failure that most people just aren't comfortable with. In the game of tennis, we accept that that's, the reality there. But in business and life, we're not used to having such high failure rates, right? So, but just mentally reframing that can be incredibly powerful to say, okay, I'm going to fail a lot. I'm going to fail almost as often as I succeed. But if I can just succeed slightly more often than I fail, it's all going to work out in the end. So that's the second lesson. The third lesson is that the game isn't over until the very last point. You have to win a certain number of points in tennis to win. There's not a timer. Like, a match can go an hour or it can go 5 hours. It can go for days. Like the longest match on record, it lasted days, because you have to win a certain number of points, or a certain number of games, not necessarily points, but a certain number of games within the construct, which is kind of convoluted. But what I love about this is that there is always the opportunity for a comeback. In basketball, you get down by 100 points, you're going to lose, right? The time's going to run out and it's game over. But in tennis, you can be down 100 points and your opponent starts to choke and you start to raise your level and you start to come back. And if they can't close it out, you can make it, you can finish that, you can do this thing. And it makes for a remarkable comeback story. And it's the perfect corollary for life. Because yes, in life, we do have a timer, right? You're going to run out of time at some point. But truth is, like, that's really far down the road. And more useful on any one of the individual games that you're playing on a day-to-day basis is to understand, oh, I can't win if I don't start and I can't lose if I don't quit. As long as I keep playing and I keep playing every point as though it's the most important point, and I win that point, and then I win the next point, and I win the point after that, I can come back and I can win the entire game. And I find that to be in alignment with my personality. I think it's one of the reasons I love playing tennis so much. It's because no matter how badly you're getting thrashed, it's never over until it's actually over. And it doesn't get over until they cross that line. And there's something beautiful about that idea. Now, the last idea I want to share with you is when it comes to watching really good tennis players versus average tennis players like myself, what you'll notice is average tennis players take their eye off the ball at the moment of contact. They track it as it's coming in, and then they hit it, and their eyes go to where they want the ball to go. So they're looking at the destination. Great tennis players, Roger Federer, if you watch videos of him, his eyes stay on the ball after the strings make contact for just a split second. He keeps his eye on the ball until he makes contact, and then a split second later, he follows. So he's locating in his mind where he wants the ball to go, but he's not looking there. He's looking at the ball. And this is a really important idea because in life, we set these goals, we set these targets for ourselves, and then we fixate on the target. We take our eye off the ball. The ball is the input. The ball is the activity that has to occur in the moment. And yet we so often look past the moment, so far past the activity. We're looking at where the activity is taking us. And you need to be able to reframe that in the same way that you give your full intensity of purpose to the point. You have to give your full intensity of purpose to the ball. And you have to see in your mind's eye where it is it's trying to go. But you can't take your eyes and look at the target. You have to keep your eyes on the ball. The ball is the true target. And I find that a lot of people that go through the motions with the ball, which then leads them to just, making contact slightly off, or the timing is slightly off, and then the ball doesn't go quite where they want it to go. And the professionals, it's crazy to watch how they keep their eye on the ball all the way through contact, and then they follow it. And it feels really strange as a novice player, because you almost feel, you almost lose like your proprioceptive capability. You're kind of like, well, I need to look where I want the ball to go, right? But no, you have to focus on the ball with your entirety of purpose. So those are some lessons that I've learned from tennis that have served me really well in other areas of life. So take this, run with it, put it into effect, go dominate the game. It's not over until it's over. And we'll see you in the next episode.